Welcome, and thank you for joining me once again as we walk through the book of Acts. Today's a particularly interesting bit of a confrontation, a bit of a tension, uh, dealing with racial issues, dealing with how the churches work together and help each other. It's a unique passage. We have both Jews and Gentiles once again meeting in Jerusalem. What if you had? What if there was a Arab Christian who still referred to God as Allah? Would that bother us? I've talked with Palestinian Christians, and they still refer to God as Allah. Allah is the God of Abraham. And they don't see any problem with that. But I imagine as a Westerner, that might bother us. How far do we go with cultural accommodation, language accommodation? I mean, where do we draw the line between culture and religious practice? As we're in the holiday season now, where it's Christmas time, most of us recognize that there's a very secular version of Christmas, but as Christians, we like to make it more of a spiritual experience. But there's nothing in the Bible that commands Christmas as a Christian holiday, but it's something that we practice. And I think that's fine as long as we don't treat it like it's some sort of Christian law that we celebrate it. But it's a nice time of year to remember that God did send his son in the form of a baby. Um, so, as a Christian, I like to make Christmas a little more spiritual. But there's other Christians that don't. Other Christians that say, oh, it was a made up holiday, or the Christmas trees represent a pagan holiday, and they don't want to practice it. Well, this definitely comes under the Romans 14 matters of opinion. My personal opinion is that since the whole world stops and takes notice that God sent his son to earth at this time, I think as Christians we should take advantage of that. But if someone feels differently, that's okay too. Maybe your cultural background doesn't allow for that, and that's fine. But we need to think through these issues because it's easy to confuse culture with religion and vice versa. And that's something that can cause problems if we're not careful. Americans, second, that our faith is the priority. And if we get them confused, and I've known many people that do get them confused, it can be very, very dangerous when our Americanism or our patriotism or nationality of any kind would start to overwhelm our faith, would actually uh, sort of tweak it a little. That's what they call syncretism, when we put two things together and come out with something very, very different. And that's happened in a lot of cultures, even where Christianity has been spread. And so we need to know the difference. We need to think about the difference. Yes, I am an American citizen, but my heart belongs to Jesus Christ, citizenship. You see, Christian faith doesn't allow for anything that causes divisions among people that would divide Christians and cause problems just because they're of a different nationality. And yet, racism has divided so many people. We still see that struggle in our own country. But you go around the world, and there are, Christians of one nation fighting the Christians of another. I remember my grandfather telling me about World War II and how on Christmas Eve they could hear the Germans singing Christmas carols as well as the Americans singing Christmas carols, and that it felt very uncomfortable to be shooting at somebody who was a fellow Christian and having to struggle with those issues, our brothers and sisters in Christ. So during this time, especially this holiday season, let's try to let our faith overwhelm any kinds of prejudices we have against any other people, so that the Spirit of Christ will truly reign in our lives, and that at this time of year, those who don't believe in Jesus will see him in us. Thank you for joining me.